Welcome to the official Beast Lab. This is Gurenlian, and today on this episode we'll be talking to Scott Rodgers, a larger-than-life person for many reasons in the sport of lacrosse, an All-American goalie at Notre Dame, former MLL All-Star, and now a goalie trainer and all-around bad man. He's been a friend for a long time, but today we're going to make it official. Scotty, I am really jacked up to have you on here as one of my really good friends. Like I said, we are boys, but today we're going to make it official. Welcome to the official Beast Lab.
I appreciate you having me, man. Pumped.
Yeah, this will be good. So for people who don't understand at home, no, this is not what the typical lacrosse goalie looks like. Scott Rodgers is an outlier. What are you right now, 6'4", 280?
I'd say we're right there.
Yeah.
It's a good call. God,
yeah, right. I'm a good judge. I'm a good judge of size right there. One time we'll have to get you actually in the studio because I have people all the time in the lacrosse world. They're like, "Oh, Greg's really big." I'm like, "No, you wait till I stand next to Scotty." So for people at home, they know that I didn't know Scotty. All I've seen of Scotty was on TV and on the cover of Inside Lacrosse when you were breaking the shaft. And I was like, who is this monster? And I remember you played in your first MLL game, and afterwards we're shaking hands, and I was like, whoa. This is like, there's only been 2 times on a lacrosse field that I have like taken a step back because of somebody's size. The first was Anthony Kelly when I was a freshman in college because he looked like an Orakai. Yeah. And then it was you, and I was like, whoa, okay, this dude is massive. So Scott, I think the very first thing we have to start with is tell everybody about the Rodgers household weight room.
Well, I will do that, but I want to get into this. The first time I met you or saw you was when I was a freshman at Notre Dame. We went to Penn State. Joey Kemp was starting at the time. I was backing up. I went out. I thought I was a tough guy. I went out in a cutoff, an Adidas issued cutoff. And I go out and I'm warming up by midfield. I'm like, these guys ain't going to mess with me. All of a sudden, I see this bald guy come out, face-off guy. He's like kind of walking. I'm like, oh, my God. I'm like, who's that? They're like, that's the face-off guy. I went, holy shit. I went, I thought I was the guy. And then I'm like, that's the guy, right? That guy shredded like a piece of lettuce. So I was like the mountain. I was like, I'm the mountain. I got this guy over there looking like Flex Wheeler. And that was the first time. That was the first time we went to the dome over there. We took we did every other year. You remember, we went 9-hour drive to you guys. You would drive out 9 hours to us. And we play in our, I think, equally bad. I'd say equally bad for goalie indoor facilities for lighting. But it snows where we go. So that's the first time I met you. But that's the first time I remember. You were a senior, I think, right? When I was
I was a senior, man. Yeah, I remember that game. We were the only team that that I never beat when I was in college. Like that I played more than one time was Notre Dame. You guys beat me every year, and it was devastating.
And it keeps me up at night.
No. Let's talk about it, okay? Let's talk about how I grew up.
Yeah, tell me about how you grew up.
So my father, like I said, like I'm pretty similar. You know, why me and you were friends. You know, we relate right away. That blue collar upbringing, that chip on our shoulder, and I was raised like that from my father. My father's he's adopted, and he's also out of high school to the Marines. Right to the Marines, took 20 years on the job at Rikers Island as a correction officer. So not much. I've lived a very fun life. I'm 30, turning 35 in February. My father had me when he was like 21. So, and my mother. So, I mean, my dad is a very, very humble guy, very hard worker. He doesn't really mess around. He's not the fun guy. So the discipline, the regiment from the military stuff, I'm talking something like me and my sister get showers before dinner growing up. And he's like, if I'm over 3 minutes, it's a yelling contest in that shower. Like, it's like a 3-minute shower, we're out. And it's when we eat, we clean the plate. We don't leave food. There's people that aren't able to eat. And that's how extreme I'm talking. So, just like I said, man, just very disciplined, hardworking family, but also, I'll tell you, I want to tell you the best story. I used to be a fat kid playing Pee Wee football. I used to always play 2 grades higher because they'd weigh me in like a meat scale. I'd be in my girdle. I'd literally be like holding my breath to make this pound. And I remember, but I loved eating too. My mom's an Italian lady. My mom cooked so much food, so I would eat every Sunday like a nutbag. My dad on Halloween when I was about 12, I remember this. He made me run the track. He drove me up to the high school track, put a rubber suit on me. I wasn't making weight because my mom's always sneaking me food. She loves like giving me food, and my dad's like, "You got to make weight." So we literally drove up to the track on Halloween. All my friends are up there with their pillowcases full of Tootsie Rolls and candy, and I'm running this track. And my dad's in the top bleacher. It's pitch black out. I'm in a rubber suit, and I'm sweating on Halloween night. And my friends are going, "Hey, fat ass," and throwing Tootsie Rolls at me as I'm running around the thing. And then my dad's running down the bleachers, chasing him around the track, going, "Leave him alone. He's not." I was like, this isn't normal. This isn't normal, but this is how I grew up. So that's it.
That is incredible. And it's funny because, like, talking to your pop now, right? Like, if I'm hanging out with you, we'll FaceTime him. You would never guess now. You would never guess now. Obviously, your dad is a blue-collar guy. We all love Mr. Rodgers. He's an absolute animal. But it says a lot about your upbringing. When you guys, from what I know, and people who follow Scotty on Instagram, you know kind of what your growing up like living room looked like. Can you describe the living room of the Scott Rodgers household?
So my father would take working at Rikers Island. He would kind of every year take a new piece of equipment would end up in that living room, right? Every year growing up, I'd get like a V-bar, a T-bar row machine. I'm like, "Dad, this is a pretty big time equipment." He's like, yeah. Like that. We had a T-bar in my living room, right? We got lap pull-down machine, cable machine, full rack, bench, squat, all that stuff. We had my mom was so sick of the dumbbells, she bought him for one of his birthdays. She got him the power blocks.
Oh yeah.
And I was busting his ball. I'm like, "This is so soft, really clicking." I'm lifting it up. I'm like, "These are pretty legit, right?" Yeah. So we had power blocks, and then we had what else? I mean, we had dude everything, and this is all within like I'm telling you, it had to be 15 by 10. I mean, but we used to like it used to be like a neighborhood thing. So like my dad would train me, I would train my dad. And I remember I'm a big Pearl Jam fan and Metallica fan because my dad would just play the greatest hits album, CDs, and we would rock it. Like, I mean, I listen to Pearl Jam greatest hits, like, yeah, it's crazy. So we used to watch Creed. I mean, I know people bust on Creed and Nickelback, but that's what we listen to.
I got you.
You know? And it turned into like Nicky Tintle was my best friend growing up. He was another guy from my school that went to North Carolina. So we were the two big time guys in our public school, small public. We'll get into that later, but very small public school. So he'd come train. And then I had to have Dominique Alexander start come train me because his dad was partners with my dad in the prison. They were best friends. Big Chuck. Yeah, Big Chuck and my dad were these two big guys walking around the prison. And then Dominique, he's like, "Can you train my son? He's about 4 or 5 years younger than you." I was like, "Yeah, come over every Saturday and Sunday." So then Dominique would start coming over, and my dad would train us both. And I'm talking, Greg, my dad's not a trainer. My dad's a hammer. He's like old school Arnold style. Like we're getting, and like I said, he's not a trainer, but he's like pen and paper, old school Arnold lifts. And we used to just hammer it while the TV was going on in the living room. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now, what was the PSI like on the floor in your living room to handle all that?
I can tell you.
You guys live on cement blocks?
I think we carpeted it. I think he definitely laid a fresh carpet a lot. It was very weird though, because it looks like a living room. Then you walk in, like, wow, it's a lot of gear in there. And, it's like, and the deck's right there, so we'd all just walk out in the deck when we had a hard set. Dude, that was honestly one of the best. It was one of the coolest times because everyone came over on the weekends. My mom's cooking after the lift. The grill's going. We're eating like, it was awesome. And that's how we got like that core group of guys that wanted to get after it.
You know what's cool about what we're trying to do with this official Beast Lab thing is create that community. And remember Anthony Bourdain, rest his soul, he would always talk about how people would bond over food, any culture. And I feel like that's what strength conditioning does as well. Lifting, really bonds a lot of people. I mean, that was one of the main factors in our friendship is we both, it's not that we're, a group of meat sticks can get together and just do arms every day, but whatever, they're friends now. Like you and I actually have an appreciation and a knowledge about it to an extent, and I feel like that's something that, like, I love talking about strength and conditioning with people. I could talk about it all day, and I feel like that's something we share. So it looks like you literally created community because of your household, your weight room / living room.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, dude, for me, you can have different philosophies on the thing, and there's a million ways to do it.
Yeah.
I honestly believe it. It's whatever I get bored sometimes. I'll just rip into something that's really challenging just to keep my stimulated. But as far as like how we met and then how our friendship's grown, like stuff like that, like think about it, right? People just kept comparing you and I. They kept saying, "Oh, the Beast. Oh, who would win, the Beast or the Big Rig?" And you're like, "All right, well, I respect that guy. I knew that already. He respects me. Guys, it ain't gonna happen. But if you want to keep putting Godzilla versus King Kong, we can keep doing this if you want. But I mean, at the end of the day, the respect is. I know he's going to work. I know he works his tail off, and then we do it. How old are we now? We're both in our 30s. Like it's we've been doing it a while. So that's the respect, and I think that's the bond.
I think when people would compare who would do what, it never interested me because it was the same way I looked at face-offs. I never cared about anyone else's stats. I never cared about being better than that guy. In my head, still to this day, Paul Canabine is the greatest face-off guy of all time. He was my idol, and I have no interest in being compared to him. My goal was to beat myself every year. What I love about lifting, we can get into performance and all that stuff, but like just pure lifting, the bar doesn't care how many followers you have. It doesn't care what orientation you are. Doesn't care what culture you are, what race you are. The bar is unforgiving, and you got to get it up. And that's what was always so zen about lifting to me.
Yeah, I use another example. I'm a pretty pessimistic guy sometimes. All right. So for me, I used to love the fact of mental battle. Like I'll tell you, when I was a 12th grader, a senior, I was in the beginning of the summer. I remember I was wrestling with 225. That was like, get 225, right? Get 225, get two cookies, right? And, I put the 2 cookies on, I never could get it. I'd fail. I'd see the 2 plates, I'd fail. But then I'd nickel and dime it on there. Like I'd throw a 2.5, a 5, a 10, and it's at 225. Like my strength coach, Bill Farney, back in the day, he was my economics teacher, but he was also open the gym at 5 a.m. And we literally, I'm telling you, when I nickel and dimed it, I got it every time. I'm like, all right, let's put on 2 plates. Put 2 plates on. I'm like, he's like, dude, it's mental. I'm like, I never understood it. I never understood it as a kid. And now when I train kids and I'm training like Calvert Hall and stuff, I'm going, it's mental, boys. Like you'll get this. I can put on 2.5s on each side. We'll get 230. Like we'll get it. It's just not going to be the big boy weights you want to see visually sometimes. I
think, and that's something I want to get into next, is when people look at you, they think, big rig, meathead, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you feed the troll monkeys what they want. But here's the reality of it is you're a knowledgeable strength coach, and that's your gig. You train with Calvert Hall. You worked under Jay Dyer for a long time. Give us an example of your relationship with Jay Dyer. And if people at home who don't know Jay's going to be a guest on here as well. Jay Dyer, if you play any kind of level of professional lacrosse, men's or women's, or international play, you know who Jay Dyer is. He is like the aficionado strength coach of all of lacrosse. Tell me the example of what you learned in your time working with Jay that kind of evolved you away from living room, lifting with Pop, to now being a professional strength coach.
For me, it started, obviously, Jay's a mentor and a great friend to me. We've been here doing this a while. We kind of good cop, bad cop at Calvert Hall. He's very calm and stoic, and he knows he's like, I call him he's like, Dumbledore of Hogwarts, and I'm more like, I'm the brute. So he always says I'm the billboard. I used to be a strength coach at Johns Hopkins. Their D3 football team was under me. And he always used to joke. I talk to these guys, they look at me like, who's this little guy? Because football guys, there's a mindset, and there is. Because when I was at Notre Dame, my strength coach was an ex-lineman, 330-pound guy, played for the Dolphins, and his name was Rick Perry, and he was
His name still Rick Perry?
Yep.
Okay.
Rick. Yeah. So he was.
His name was. So I just want to make sure. Okay.
Yeah, and he's just like this big mountain, right? And then there's guys like Jay, and I go to Jay, and his philosophy, and to his credit, he's changed his philosophy as many of times throughout when I got here, probably 8-9 years ago in Baltimore, to where we are now with some training stuff. He changes his workouts. He evolves. He changes with the times, and I think the problem with some strength coaches are the stubbornness to change and saying this is wrong and this is right. And that's hard to grow like that as far as knowledge, because you're always trying to get as much knowledge as you want, because this is a growing field. And Jay is always like functionality, mobility, but also if I went in there some days, I'd be like, dude, I had a rough day. I'd love to just let it out. And he knew exactly what that meant. And it would be like 5x5 bench, 5x5 overhead, 5x5 box squat, and we just get into it, right? But then there's days where we had to do this. I had to do functionality, and I had to do. And he's just he's got so many different dimensions, man. He's a great strength coach.
Yeah, and Jay is the definition of a professional, and I feel the same way about any coaching philosophy or teaching. Is if you don't evolve and you're not willing to evolve, then how are the athletes that train under you supposed to respect you? We have, at the FOA, we have a system, and that system is malleable. I actually told my guys this week, there's a move that we do, and I teach it a specific way, and some of my guys do it a different way, and I'm like, why do you do it that way? And so I did it that way for an entire night, taking reps with my guys, and I was like, I understand why you would want to use it this way now. So now let's try to come and meet halfway where we get the most out of this move. If I'm not like that, and I'm just pounding my fist against the table saying you have to do it one way, if kids see a different way that works, they're going to stop listening to me. And I think that's a perfect example of somebody who we all respect continues to evolve, like you said. So how does that now, the way you train now, give us like an example of how you have grown under Jay. Like, what's your philosophy now with training?
Like I said, I like to do a lot of stuff where now in my age, I'll flip tires in between my sets, and I like to do like an active, try to do something where I feel like I'm doing a little cardio in there just to keep myself moving and not just stand around, wait 2 minutes for rest and then lift again. I've done that. I in the winter here, probably about 6-7 months ago, I went in pretty deep to a bulking regimen, and I was benching heavy, and my joint, and you got to prepare for that. It's a whole different mentality of going, like, my body was sore, but I was lifting heavy every day. And that's just a different grind. That's a different grind. That's like a mental preparation. You did heavy stuff the day before. And now I'm more just trying to get some sets in. I'm doing a lot of sets. I'm hitting the assault bike. I'll box. I'll throw variation in. And for me, I told you, the stimulation's one of them. Having a plan. I have a written plan that I use. And it's more of a bodybuilder style for me, just to keep muscle. But then I have to do like these 1 or 2 days a week where I throw in these, like, I don't want to say hit. I don't like saying hit. They're like functionality and like they're like active. Like, I'm actively moving through my workout. I'm sledgehammers. I'm popping my hips. I'm making sure I'm getting low. And for me, tricking myself to get my butt low and some depth is key. So for like flipping a tire for me is like, I make sure every time my butt's low, and that's how I get my hips loose and stuff like that. I just found ways to substitute traditionally getting under a squat bar. I told myself I was never going to be a 500-pound squatter again after Notre Dame. I told myself that right when I left. For me personally, it was just I would be sore, and in my head it would jack up my play. So I do different things for legs now. I do, and people bust my chops. You know, they bust my chops about legs and skinny. That's genetic. Hey, Dad, thanks. You got small legs. But you know, as far as like strength and my deadlifts and stuff, nothing's ever been too bad, too weak, too, you know. So I just do what kind of I shift in and out of phases.
Yeah, I'm at that point in my life where I still try to train as if I'm playing. So it helps me break up my year, because I've said in the past, the hardest thing to do as a strength trainer or somebody who has knowledge of it is to not get program ADHD, right? Like you'll start, okay, I just wrote this mesocycle, like the next 12 weeks I'm doing this, and then this is my goal, and you progress it, and then at week 2 on Thursday, you're like, you know what, man? Kind of just want to see how much I can squat for 1 rep. You're like, dude, you just completely diced it up. And then the next day you're like, you know what, I got to get my energy systems up. I think I'll go 2 by 20. And it just like, it's so hard to stay focused when you know a lot, but you want to do everything. And it's really hard. But like at this point in my life, I want to train like I'm in season, but I'm not beholden to it. So I can try new things, right? If I want to go and be like, you know what, I'm just going to dish the weights for a week or a couple of weeks, I'm going to start taking Krav Maga every week because I just want to get into some martial arts again. I can do that because I'm not playing. I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. I go along with like the fact of like, so I love training with like my friend. I love training with my friends, and we both have knowledge of what we're doing, and we can kind of flow and kind of pen and paper it. I do love that. I think there's a camaraderie. I think there's you get a little more juice when you're with your, you know, people. We have a little lifting group here at the house. We have a big garage gym here. Gunner's into lifting, who's like my best friend and roommate. And then, you know, we have a bunch of buddies that we come in, and, you know, Vado will come lift. And like I said, that's cool. Like, that's like, when you get everyone in there, you're not really trying to channel the juice. You got juice. But that's the competitor in you, right? But also with the days when you're alone, I do like lifting alone because I like the mental challenge of, dude, get your ass going, get down there. You have to get this in. You don't have someone mushing you. And that's what most of these athletes don't really understand, and why we were, you know, were pros for so long. The ability to train with nobody's watching, the ability to do it and do it and do it and do it without, hey, my college strength coach is now saying be in here at 6 a.m. or you're running, right? Like that's a pretty good, you know, deterrent not to miss. So I just think there's two different sides to it. There's team lifting, and I love that, but there's accountability to that we provide. Like, get in here, we got you. When you leave, you're out. You're almost like a robot in that situation. Do what you're told. We got the recipe for you. Follow the recipe. And then there's, when we do it, we have the recipe, but we also have our brain that's going, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. So you got to try to keep yourself like here. And that's the mental toughness for me, from you being a face-off guy, me being a goalie, I'm always trying to find in other outlets how to make myself mentally stronger. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Taylor Cummings, Angie Benson, we spoke about the difference between being a college athlete and training, coming out that first year as a pro, and then your second, third, fourth year as a pro, and trying to stay in condition when no one's telling you to, and no one's planning your lifts. When I took that year off from the MLL, after my last year, I spent that 1 year completely away from the MLL so I could train for the World Games in 2018, and I hired Todd Georgi, who lives here in Mamaroneck. He's going to be a guest as well. He's a professional strongman. And I was like, look, I need somebody. I don't have time. I have a kid now. I have a business. I don't have time to write my program. I just need someone to come in here and whoop my ass so I'm ready for the World Games. As the oldest guy on that team, I need to set an example and be in shape. And sometimes it was just nice to not have to think, right? And just go in there and be like 35 pounds, you know, seated shoulder press. You got to hit 12 with 3-second negative. Boom. Okay. You know, like, just tell me what to do and do it. So that was pretty nice. Now, when you look at, I mean, you're a goalie. You were a professional goalie, all-star goalie, all-American goalie. Now you train goalies for a living. Tell me what kind of training correlates best for a goalie.
Yeah, so the best thing, dude, honestly, the best thing I tell these kids, everyone looks at me, right? They go, oh no, I don't look like him. I'm not going to be able to play his style. I don't play, I play, honestly, you could put me in, Adam Gittleman's body, Kyle Bernler's body. That's not a slight to those guys. Those guys have phenomenal hands and they're quick and they're cat-like. And I can play like that. My thing is, if you have explosion, right? Explosion comes from, I say, this is what I always tell my goals. 6x6 area. You have to be the quickest guy in a 6x6 area. You don't have to run a 50-second 300. You don't have to run a 6-minute mile, right? You got to be able to explode. And I always preach pushing off the back foot. The back foot's the gas. The front foot's the steering wheel. Okay, so yeah, every goalie's taught to step to the ball. But at the same time, dude, if you're really going to step to the ball, you're going to push off. And if you push off, you got power. Now, most goalies get caught in a split. Their front foot goes, their back foot's stuck in the mud. So there's no drive. And then all of a sudden, they're in their head, they're going, I stepped. You stepped to the ball. Your steering wheel went, right? But now we got to hit the gas and get there. So when I put it like that, the kids have seemed to understand a little bit better that I'm trying to get a little push off. You need to explode to the ball. I don't care how big, small, shape sizes. Lacrosse is the ultimate equalizer as far as guys like me and you are actually anomalies. So just, it doesn't matter about that stuff. It doesn't matter. I put a lot of band stuff, resistance. You see my drills, a lot of band push-offs, lateral movement, 45-degree angle steps, but also with bands and always trying to make sure their hips and their glutes are driving and activating through.
Yeah, and you can tell that you do this for a living because that analogy was perfect. I know nothing about goaltending. I get that now because you're right, Bill. Step to the ball. What you just said and how you described it is perfect. And only somebody who actually has a little bit of strength training background or performance background could explain it that way. And it was dead on. It was perfect. So when you are developing goalies, or say a goalie comes to you and says, Scotty, could you give me a demonstration of a program that would work lifting wise that would help benefit me? Give me like kind of like an idea of a breakdown of a week part, like a microcycle of what my training would look like.
When I'm doing a goalie specific stuff, so I know when I was training pretty hard with Ryan Carr, he was my strength coach in that phase there. I was getting big and strong, but a lot of stuff we did was I used him honestly for the drill piece. So like the lateral movement, the shuffle, the cone, pro agility, I call it goalie pro agility, where like top hand drives to the ball, 2 shuffles out, put it back, come back, 2 shuffles to the right, 2 shuffles to the left, make sure I get the hand, use the hands, goalie specific, and then also all speed skaters, like the slide board. Dude, the slide board for a goalie is the best tool they could use because they have to push off that back foot like I'm asking, and they have to find that drive and that explosion laterally, right? And that's honestly the slide board is the secret. That's the secret tool, I think. If any goalie has access, I know we have a ton. I made Coach Kelly get like 5. Right? Wow. Coach Kelly, he bought like 5 slide boards for the boys. And when the goalies get on there, I make sure they're on there in their stance. I'm like so goalie, like I could be strength coach mode. I see 3 goalies on a slide board. I'm like, dude, get your hands up, because the way you're drilling is it's all muscle memory. So keep your top hand up, whatever hand your goalie stick is. I'm a lefty, my left hand. I already do it naturally. I'm a righty in everything I do in life. But when I see goalie, I just go, right? That's my left hand, right? So just that muscle memory and like training kind of specific to what we're doing and not too specific. Like, you know how our sport gets, and that's every sport. You can't get too specific because at the end of the day, strong is strong. Like, you could be a strong guy, you could be a weak guy, and then you can be a very functional and athletic guy. I'm trying to get these kids to learn how to use their body and like learn how to explode. And when they tell their body to go left, everything goes left. When they tell their body to go right, everything goes right. And there's no wasted movement, and it's efficient.
Yeah, I always kind of disliked the term sport-specific training. Yeah. I would rather use the term skill-specific training. And I think that's a demonstration of it, where you're a goalie and you're at Calvert Hall and you're training with Scott. You're still doing your deadlifts. You're still doing your squat. You're still doing your overhead press. But then in addition, you have to be on the slide board to work on that extra skill set that guys don't have. You know, like for face-off guys, a lot of our stuff, you know, you'll see people who don't quite understand face-offs think everything's a wrist curl, right? This is absolutely not the way we face off.
Right.
And where I sit there and I say our skill-specific training is actually mobility so that we can avoid injury because we're in the same position 300 times a week. But then we will work on elbow extension for the power development in the right arm. So, you know, that's an example of that for goalies.
So I always was fascinated by face-off guys because I was fascinated by, you know, the guy I faced off with in college, Taylor Claggett. I mean, he hated lifting. He had like he just had like the guy, you know, every sports kind of guy that just has like that timing or that speed or that natural
God-given talent. Yep.
And he was just a guy that he had the whistle and he had the speed, right? And like we'd lift and he'd be like, that's fine. But then there's guys you kind of know if you rely on your training. I always say preparation leads to confidence. Confidence leads to you performing all the time. Now, if you don't have confidence, if you don't have preparation, and you just kind of flip a coin, I tell my goalies, if I go out there, I can flip a coin every day. And sometimes I'll have a good game. Like sometimes if I flip a coin, I'll be on head sometimes, right? So yeah, I'll have a good game sometimes. But if I know for a fact, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I did what I was supposed to do, right? That confidence, I did everything I was supposed to do. There's no reason I should play bad Saturday. And that was how I always told my goalies, preparation leads to confidence. A confident goalie is more lethal than a guy that flips a coin. And there's a lot of goalies that flip a coin and say today's a streak, and that they get considered a streaky goalie. 20 saves, 5 saves, 15 saves, 6 saves. That's not what we want in this position. You know, we want a guy that's what Coach Corrigan always said. I'd rather have a guy in there that's making 12 saves a game, right? 12 saves a game, and he's consistent, and he's not getting beat. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
And that's the recipe, and I think we've earned that now. Where that's the recipe for long-term longevity is just having a kind of like a belief, right? Having a system that you trust, and then sticking to it, right? Yeah. And some guys deviate, and they deviate, and they go, "Oh, I didn't do much this offseason." Well, you get what you put in, right? So I don't know. I go back and forth with it, but I just think for me, the lifting and the goaltending, I was always fascinated the injuries the faceoff guys took, the elbows, the wrists, the shoulders. I know that's a big thing that just gets grinded out over time. As a goalie, we're more blunt force. It's like bruises and getting over, like 2 days to get over a shin pop or a inner arm pop. That's a pop, meaning a shot. Sorry for my Long Island lingo, but
I remember Drew Adams was a walking hematoma. I was like, guys.
And there's guys like that, man. It's just the ball's attracted to him. Like Drew's feet, like when we used to play against each other, that's one guy I used to look across the field when I played against Penn State, and I have to say to myself, this is actually a one-on-one matchup. So in our position, you get that more because it's you versus actually him. Sometimes a goalie, you don't see that, but I'm telling you, every time I played Drew, college, we had battles, like 20 saves, 20 to 18 in saves. Like, he made a save, I told myself, I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you. I was like, I need to save the ball next. And that's a one-on-one battle. That's fun. That's fun.
Oh, yeah, man. Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, and that's like a guy that his feet, I was always envious. He finally told me, I think, like, after we graduated, we were in the pros, we all talked. He's like, dude, I used to wear like 2 sizes bigger of my shoes. I was like, dude, your feet used to find the ball. I've never seen.
You would think that Drew Adams had size 46 feet.
Like clown feet.
Yeah.
Like clown feet. Yeah.
And he would make the saves so routine in the crease that you're not supposed to make that it made our defense worse. It's like, oh, I got beat chasing the stick. It's all good. I'm just going to go out for the outlet anyway. But yeah, I think it's important for people because one of the things I'm finding in these interviews is the common denominator is discipline. And like you said, you're not always going to feel like putting in the work. And some guys have God-given talent. I would say there's at least 20 guys I've faced off against in my career who just naturally have faster hands than me. I knew, though, that no one I was going against was working harder than I was on a daily basis. And that gave me a lot of confidence. And my belief was not just from a training aspect, but from a film study aspect of, I know everything about you. So even though I haven't faced off against you before, you might get me for the first quarter. You might even get me for a half or three-quarter. I'm going to figure you out eventually. And when I do, I'm going to stomp you out. And that was the way I always looked at it.
Well, I like that part of that. Like I said, we're chopping it up here, which is awesome because I haven't talked in a while. But face-off guys, right? Like there's a physical piece. You can just be bigger, stronger, faster, right? There is. Then there's the mental piece. Can I do this over and over and over again? And then there's the IQ piece. Can I make an adjustment when getting beat to become successful? And that's where I love the face-off position because there's three things that go into it, right? There's not just you being big and strong, you being the beast. People could say this. They used to say it all the time when I was talking to them. I'm like, beast is the best. And they'd be like, yeah, well, look at the guy. Well, yeah, okay. That does not look at me, right? Yeah, okay. There's nothing to shoot at high, but I know my weakness is low. I'm 6'4". Shoot at my feet. You're not the one having to go from all the way up here to all the way down there. So there's weakness everywhere, right? But how do you adjust? How do you make the changes to be successful? I think that, like you said, the discipline to do that, the discipline to say, hey, I'm not playing my best right now. And this is what I came in with the game plan. I have to change it and I have to make a change. And it has to be something I go all in on so I could make the result change. That's where it gets tough with guys. Guys get stubborn. Guys get stubborn with if you prepare one way for so long, they're going to be like, this is my style. All right, well, have a couple styles. Or have an IQ where you can change.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think, people say it all the time, Greg's just bigger, that's why he's better. And I would say, okay, well, I had a dozen rule changes. They changed a whole bunch of rules, and every single time I was still beating you guys. There used to be flat out blunt force. On the whistle, we're going to rotate, and I'm going to drive you off the ball for a minute. Okay, awesome. Yeah, there was a time where that was happening. Then it was just all about your hand speed. Then it was about, the wings are closer, and I'm 12 years older than you. How come I'm still beating you? It's because I'm lining my guys up to take away your advantages. That's what I love about goalie and faceoff, because you're going to have your guys, if they trust you, right? You learn a lot about how a goalie's defense plays for them. Yep. If you say, guys, look, push everyone to the middle the whole game, okay? Force them to their weak hands so that I can save it dead on against their weak hands. And they do it for a whole game. You look good. They look great because you're the leader of that defense. Same thing on faceoffs. When I was with the Redwoods, my last year, old as hell, had no business playing as well as we did on the faceoffs. Our final game, we were 57% in the championship. And it's because my wings trusted me so implicitly. They were always in the right place. And it was like Harbison, Adams, Brian Karalunas, Sexton. These guys would go to the exact spots I'd tell them. And it was like we were playing chess and they were playing checkers because the other face-off guys I got to do it all myself and diving on the ball and stuff. So I think, being able, the intelligent part, and that comes back to strength training too. You could be the baddest dude on earth. You could want to train as hard as you want, but if you don't have a plan, and you don't have the discipline to stick to the plan and create progression, then it's not going to correlate to the goals you want. And I think that's what we learn with sports and strength training and performance coming together.
No, I think for us, it's been, we're talking to two guys here that are probably on the extreme of the workout side, and that's okay. Like, I'm not telling guys, like, I don't tell my goalies to be like I told you, I don't tell them to lift like me. I don't think you need to look like me. I don't need to. You just need to have some sort of work ethic and discipline to do it every day. And I'm a big fan of that 1%. I know it's cliche, but you can be better than you were yesterday. And it could be, I sucked off stick high yesterday. Today, I'm really going to emphasize getting to that ball across my face. That's 1% better than I was yesterday if I'm getting to that ball today, right? And that's a small improvement that people don't want to see. Small change. They don't see it. They don't see much reward in it. Add those up. How many practices did we have at Penn State and Notre Dame where we, in the fall, in the dead of winter, you're going to individual training with your skill coach, and you're just sitting there going, yeah, I could easily cash this day. I could easily just, let's get through this day, and then you add those up, and guess what? The fall's over, right? Yeah. Did I get better in the fall, or did I not? Did I attack the weakness from the last spring, or did I just get through it again to get to the games? And that's a lot of guys. I get so mad. I know we talk about how I go off on social media and stuff. I really just wanted to provide honesty, right? Like honesty to these kids is important because, like I said, when at the end of the day, save the ball. That's our goal. Save the ball. I don't care how you do it. And when people compare goalies of different generations, I hate it, but they do it. They compare me, like Catrano, Lacasio, Schwarty, and then Quinn Kesnich, Larry Quinn. Those guys, listen, the only thing that's changed, and I do believe a little bit in this, the ball's gotten faster with the stick technology. And the balls, that high school kid now is shooting average what the pro guy was shooting back then. And that's true. That's just factual information. Mm-hmm. And that's velocity. Velocity has to be trained as a goalie by training explosion and speed. And that's where I did the bands. I took, bands to the stick to get a little resistance, to get a little quicker. Just, it's nothing different. The core is save the ball. Save the ball. So it's not, people get bent out of shape at both of us. They get bent out of shape. They go crazy on these rants. I was a part of the MLL. When I came in as a rookie and I watched you and Chris Eck and Alex Smith and Jeff Schneider and Anthony Kelly, and I watched you guys freaking circle the wagons for, a minute face-off drop. And guess what? That was the rule then. And that's like how you had to do it. And you had to outlast that guy. And that was just how it is. And now if you showed that now, you should see the kids like, this is a waste of time, blah, blah, blah. No, those are two dudes that are trying to get one possession.
Yeah. And it took years off my life doing that.
It got a little greasy in that.
Yeah, man. This labrum has had a rough go, man.
The Alex and the Eck things, it was a Wild West.
Yeah, it was. And, that's why the Face-Off Academy came around. But I will say, this conversation has been awesome. For the subscribers who are premium subscribers, we're going to go to the post game. Scotty and I are going to get into a little bit more discussion about trolling and how we handle it. So you guys who are premium subscribers, we'll see you back. For the rest of you guys, thanks a lot for listening in. Scotty, thanks a lot for keeping it official, man.
Thanks, guys.